too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
That sound like fun.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I sure hope so. Welcome to Smokin' and Toastin'. It is the radio program and podcast heard round the world and in echo from someone's device. Is that you?
That's me.
Okay, good. Welcome to Smokin' and Toastin'. It's show number 209. We are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Available on the web for you to shop for cool shirts for cigar lovers or anybody on your gift list this holiday season, because it is holiday season. I mean, this is essentially our Halloween show. And as I always like to say, from Halloween, it's just a downhill slide to New Year's Day. You know, that's basically the way it seems to go every year. But anyway, welcome, and we're brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. So
Why?
they've got great, because cigars. Yeah, and that's the slogan for the shop. And they've got all kinds of great things. There's sweatshirts and hoodies available now. There's a great face mask that says, as soon as I take this off, I'm having a cigar.
That's what I forgot to order this week. I was
Yeah.
get myself one of those.
Those are very cool. And lots of great shirts with snarky sayings on them for cigar lovers. So it's a lot of fun. Check it out. Welcome to the program, and welcome to our, I guess it's our Halloween show. We're going to have a pumpkin beer. I brought what I think is going to be a really special pumpkin beer today. It's in a big old bomber with a cork on the top.
Oh, that sounds fancy.
Usually pumpkin beers are like in a can, and it's 12-ounce can, and they may be delicious, but this time we'll be tasting the Hardywood Park Craft Brewery Rum Barrel Pumpkin.
Ooh.
It's a pumpkin farmhouse ale that has been aged in rum barrels. So all of that sounds good to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, like you just keep saying.
Oh, and as if that weren't enough, it's over 12%. So I knew you'd be excited.
You know I love that.
Yeah. We're also going to be tasting from the Manhattan Project Beer Company, which is not located in Manhattan, by the way. They are located in Dallas, Texas. But they have a beer called Necessary Evil. It's a Pilsner.
Necessary Evil.
Great name. So we'll get to that. Also trying for the first time anything from the Moonraker Brewing Company. They're out of Auburn, California. We'll be trying their Space Nectar IPA. And now, Ian, I'm going to need your help with the whiskey we're tasting today, because I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing it right. Is it Bunnahabhain?
Bunnahabhain.
See, I knew I was trying too hard. Just Bunnahabhain.
Bunnahabhain, I think.
Bunnahabhain.
I think there's one more syllable in there. Bunnahabhain.
Bunnahabhain.
Yeah.
All right. Well, obviously, it's going to have a sort of a Scottish.
Just so you know, it's spelled Bunnabhain.
Yeah, and so I can drink it, but I have a hard time.
I didn't do that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
The bottle happened to be going on Mr. Twirly Gig right at the right time.
At the right moment. See, that's good. It is a single malt Scotch, so we'll be tasting that on the program today. I'm sure I can probably talk you into that, and talking about a lot of different things now. Today's shirt is Smoking and Toasting Hoodie. Today's program is entitled Cocktails for Halloween, and there's a stem in my cigar.
There's a stem in my cigar?
A stem in my cigar. Now, those of you who smoke things other than cigars have come to recognize the stem as a negative. Is that the case with cigars?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it keeps your ash from falling off too fast.
Well, maybe it does. We'll talk about that. If so, you need more stems in your cigars, because you're the guy that always gets it on his shirt. Although that happened to me today, actually, so I really don't.
See, I managed to skip past that today.
I really don't have much room to talk. So, also coming up on the program, we will share with you some good cocktails for Halloween. Also coming up on the program, there is there's a company that says they can make top shelf whiskey in a few days. So we'll be examining
that
claim
that story's been going
and trying
around
to
for
see if
just a
there's-
little bit because
Yeah, it has.
I've been hearing about this.
Yeah, well, mostly because I keep saying it and then we don't get to it on the program. Also, the most underrated whiskeys, according to the experts, and even the most underrated tequilas, if we have time to get to all of that. Next week's show, we're going to go through, there's a whole bevy of lists that just dropped about best breweries of 2020, best beers of 2020. And even though 2020 is not over yet, a lot of these are very interesting because they were voted on by fans of different, craft brew websites and craft brew magazines. So that'll be fun to go to. I think we're going to just do a whole top beers episode next week and go through all of these lists.
Oh, that would be fun.
So I think that'll be fun, and we'll try to drink as many of them as we, possibly can. So we'll look forward to that. So a lot going on the program today. A lot happening all around the world, and we're still, in the middle of, pandemic dumb. Want to say a big thanks to Greg Duxakis and his wife, who opened up their home to us last week as we did the show from his back patio, which was a lot of fun.
Man, how fun
smoked
was
cigars
that?
And actually, the most fun part was when we went upstairs and looked at his treasure trove.
His treasure
rums.
trove, yes.
Yes, and selected what to bring down for the show. But he's with Plantation Rum, of course, and those rums are just fantastic. So I will say, by the way, we talked most, of all the rums we tasted last week, we talked most about the Isle of Fiji rum, which was the newest one from Plantation.
It was delicious.
It's wonderful, and we talked about how wonderful it was and how inexpensive it is. And so I was back in Specs yesterday. I shop at the big Specs, like, mega store.
The downtown.
The downtown
yeah,
one,
that's
right?
that's basically a holiday every time you go in.
It really is. I love going in there. Bought my cigar in there, and bought a number of things. Spent way too much money. But the thing I wanted to tell you is, I went to get another bottle of Isle of Fiji, because after all, I did scarf down the one that they sent.
I've only gotten to taste it once.
Yes, you mentioned that a couple of times last week. So I was going to get another bottle, right? Guess what? Sold out.
Sold
at Specs
out
on Maybe.
already.
And so immediately I thought, smoking and toasting, directly influencing sales.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly why.
Yeah, it would have to be, wouldn't you think? It's a darn good rum, and very inexpensive, too. So anyway, we'll get to, we do want to say thanks to Docs and his wife for being so gracious. And
That
had
was
a great,
so
Had a great
awesome.
time at their place. He even took us out on his boat for a little
I
spin after
know,
the
little
show.
sandwiches and everything.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was great. Yeah, why don't we have little sandwiches in the studio? That'd be a wonderful idea.
Yeah, Adam.
We should work on that. Well, it's been a crazy week for me. I assume it has been for you too, but hopefully at some point you got a chance to slow down just a little bit and enjoy a cigar that you can tell us about.
Well, I did. Actually, I slowed down this morning. I went by, I hadn't been by Casa de Monte Cristo in a while, so it was nice to get by there and do that. I've been doing my cigar reviews at my house, which is also very nice. But today I decided to get out the house a little bit. Plus, the other thing that made that happen was I looked at my humidor, and I've reviewed every cigar that's left in my humidor, and it's getting pretty slim right now.
See?
So-
you got one of those pandemic humidors where you've been smoking more than you've been buying.
Yes, yes. Man, let me put it. I even bought a box of EPC Inch.
Yes, I
The
remember you
EPC
told me
Inch
about
Natural,
that.
and I'm almost through that.
Yeah.
And those things smoke forever.
I know they're small, but they last.
I love those cigars. They smoke forever. But what I did is I went by today and perused the humidor, and I found a couple cigars that I hadn't had before, so I bought them. But the one I decided to review today is the Caldwell Gibraltar Extra.
Oh, nice.
Now I don't remember the Gibraltar Extra. I think I've had Gibraltar, and it's been around for a
Right.
while. And the Extra, I think, has also been around for a while, but I haven't had that one.
And Caldwell was one of the three guys that blended the cigar that I smoked last
Yes.
week. It was Caldwell and AJ and Matt Booth.
Yeah, so this one was a Robusto, 5.5 by 54, and it was a good long smoking Robusto, too. That 5.5 by 54 was about an hour and 15 minutes almost of smoking.
Sweet.
I was very happy with that. And it was sweet, actually. So the wrapper's Dominican, binder's Dominican, filler's Dominican, and Honduran. The appearance, medium brown with a very simple label, medium firmness overall, solid construction feel. Just, nice looking cigar. Kind of muted colors on it. Looked real classy and nice. The pre-light sniff, earthy, barnyard, leather, hints of tea leaf and coffee. This is one of those cigars that when you bring it to your nose, like, so
You're like,
much
oh,
aroma.
Yeah, so much going on.
Like,
and sometimes you don't get a lot.
I
on
want
the
my
pre-light.
house to smell like that.
Yeah.
You know, like,
if only there was a potpourri that was that, right?
that smelled just like that. Was
then I
amazing.
wouldn't hate potpourri as much
It
as I
smells
do.
so good. The pre-light draw on this, I used a punch initially. Medium draw effort on this. Unexpected fruitiness in there, backed by a spicy tingle right on the draw. It was very kind of interesting. The initial light, immediate burst of spices and pepper with sweet coffee and cashew nuttiness on the background. The first third on this, the draw became a little bit tight, so I opened it up with a clip, which is fine. I don't count anything off on that because, you know, sometimes they're like that. I had a marginal difference in the draw, but the draw never got any tighter. And as a matter of fact, it started to open up about the second third of this cigar. But the first third of the cigar had coffee with a hint of mocha dominating, and a background of tea leaf and spice rounding out the profile. Medium strength overall, solid ash, mostly even burn, so pretty good. Nothing to complain about. The second third of this, pleasant notes of cedar became prominent, backed by coffee and spices, sweet and peppery flavors. There's still a little nuttiness going on, threading throughout this. The sweetness, that sweet cashew nuttiness, kind of lingered the whole time. Almost, and there's a little mocha in there too that just threads in and out that you don't always get, but every once in a while it's like, oh yeah, there it is again. That was kind of fun because you're kind of looking for it. Solid ash, perfect burn all the way through the second third of this. The third third of this, the last third of this, more of the same. All good. Everything all the way through the cigar was delicious. This was a $6.95 cigar, I think.
Not bad, yeah.
You know, I give it a 6. I
That's
think
great.
I wouldn't have batted an eye if I paid $8 to $9 for this cigar. For the if you just handed it to me and I tried it, having no idea the price, I would have guessed it.
Yeah.
Between an $8 and $10 cigar easily. I truly enjoyed this. I will go back and have more of these. This is a full, like, robust medium to the draw with a little bit of spice going on, but not enough spice to distract you from all the rest of the flavors.
Right, because sometimes spice can overpower
Right,
everything.
but the pepperiness was very. It was a sweet pepperiness, and it was a nice threading throughout this whole cigar that just really lent a little extra.
I know we're on show 209, but in case anybody is not familiar
that's
with
halfway to 300.
yes,
by the
it
way.
is. In case anybody's not familiar with the price to quality scores that we like to use on cigars, you know, we're not really rating them. We're just describing our experience. But one of the things we can tell you is how it stacks up against what we had to pay for the cigar. And that's what price to quality is about. So a price to quality rating of 5 means you got what you paid for. Ian gave this one a 6, which means you really wouldn't have been disappointed. It overperformed. You wouldn't have been disappointed had you paid more.
$2 more for this cigar, I wouldn't have batted an eye.
And please, to the cigar companies, do not take a rating of a 6 to mean that you're undercharging. We appreciate the fact
Absolutely
that
true.
we can get a cigar that's not, not maybe it's expensive. And then sometimes stuff will get below a 5. That doesn't mean it was a bad cigar. It might mean that based on what else you could get for that same price, it doesn't quite measure up to that.
Well, I will tell you, this is one that I'll probably start eyeballing prices on boxes.
Oh,
because I really did enjoy the flavor profile a lot. I like the mocha that just kind of popped in and out once in a while. And
I think if we talk about a cigar on the show, and after talking about it, we say we would consider getting a box of them, I think it should get like there should be some sort of little box graphic, a dancing cigar box or something we can make waft across the screen. You know what I'm saying? Ooh, he triggered the box option. That's good, kind of like a game show.
So Greg's wife posted on the comments when you were talking about the Isle of Fiji.
Yes, Suzanne.
She said more. Greg said more has landed today, so it should be back in stock very shortly.
Yeah, well, apparently we did a number on it when we talked about how good it was last week.
You did a number on it.
Yes, I did.
I haven't actually been by the liquor store, so.
Well, if you go by, pick me up a bottle.
Noted.
I had a pretty interesting cigar. I actually smoked this today, and it was the first time I'd ever had one of these, although I've had a number of the cigars in the line from Rocky Patel.
All right, I got a question. How's your patio right now? Because how's the wind up there?
Well, the wind hasn't been too bad this week.
Okay.
It was worse last week, but
we got the weather change coming
now
up.
a
It
little
actually
chilly.
Got a little chilly outside. We're both wearing hoodies right now.
Yeah, it's now a little chilly. For those of you who are from states that don't start with Tex, we wear hoodies when it dips below 50 here. That's unheard of. They're still wearing shorts in the 40s in Boston.
Well, I'm still wearing shorts, but I do have a hoodie on.
All right. Well, fair enough. It's the counterbalance. So actually, no. I came. I smoked this one in my car. Actually, I have a little convertible, so it was. The weather was just perfect to put the convertible down, run a little bit of heat in the car, and
just
smoke
enough
this.
to knock the chill off the front.
Right, but I wasn't moving. I found a spot and parked because sometimes the wind can. I don't like to smoke anything that I'm trying to, really get a lot out of. If the car's moving, it can still be fun to have a cigar, but the wind's gonna play with you a little bit.
Yeah,
so.
if you've got the windows open or the top down and you're smoking a cigar, you want to smoke something that either pretty well or it's okay if it burns a little hot because you're going to get all that wind going by it. Yeah.
So I was parked, got a fair shot at this. This was the Rocky Patel quarter century Robusto.
I haven't even seen that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's as. At first, I thought, oh, this must be brand new, but I think I was just seeing it for the first time. I think it's been out for a little while. It is a really nice looking cigar, nice medium brown wrapper. It's a San Andres, Mexico wrapper, a Honduran binder, and filler from Nicaragua. So a lot of different forces at work here with the tobacco. And all of the tobacco in this cigar was aged for 10 years before it was rolled. Then the cigar was rolled, and those cigars rested for another 2 years. So it's essentially 12 years of aging on this 25th anniversary.
That's a lot of
tobacco.
dedication.
Yes, it is. It's a lot of patience is what I would say, because I'd be like, can I smoke them now? Can I smoke them now? Pre-light on this was leathery. There was a bit of cocoa, and what reminded me a little bit of rice pudding. There's a phrase I haven't used in a cigar.
Rice pudding.
Rice pudding. It has that sort of rice vibe, but it's a creamier vibe. So
with a little sweetness to it.
That's what I went with was rice pudding. Lit up nicely. Started a little slow, but once it got warmed up, the flavors started to make themselves known. Even in the first third, there was a pleasant earthiness and a kind of a creamy, buttery note that seemed to come and go a little bit. That was very nice. Second third gave me some nuttiness, kind of a walnut flavor. And there was a little bit of pepper, and the nuttiness was a little more pronounced on the retrohale. About halfway in, I got this, all of a sudden, this very bitter, papery taste starts.
Weird.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, what's going on? So I actually turned the cigar over in my hand, and what had happened was it had started to burn unevenly. And this was unbeknownst to me because the side I was looking at looked pretty straight.
Yeah, right.
The other side, though, had burned down and had made contact with the first band on the cigar. So the paper I was getting was paper. It was I was getting
paper.
Yeah. So I took that off, and the cigar returned to normal like right away in terms of the flavor. And I decided, you know what? This was a relatively expensive cigar. It wasn't ridiculous, but it was. I'm just going to let it burn and see whether it evens itself out or not. So that's what I went with. The final third, it got more earthy, a little more rich. The nuttiness stayed, but it wasn't as prominent as it had been at first. I like the way the flavors blended and changed while it smoked. It was a very interesting cigar, and there was this flavor that I just couldn't pin down. And so I got out the tablet and went on the internet and looked for reviews of the cigar. Now, I really try not to read other reviews before I try to get flavors out because I don't want them
to influence.
Right, I don't want to just say the same thing those said. I want to say what I'm getting. But this flavor was driving me crazy. I couldn't figure out what it was. So I thought, let's go look and see. So I went to a site that I trust. I went to Half Wheel.
Yep, Half Wheel's a great place.
Half Wheel, they had a guy smoke this cigar, which is a slightly different size, but he'd smoked this blend. And I'm reading down the review, and I'm like, oh, that's it. Popcorn.
Popcorn.
I've never used the word popcorn talking about a cigar before. But it wasn't exactly corn. But it was, there's just that flavor that popcorn has. So with total nods to stealing the word from the Half Wheel review, it was definitely there. That was what I was tasting was popcorn, and it was very pleasant. By the way, it was like kind of how popcorn smells when you walk into the movie theater. It was that kind of a thing, but I wasn't associating
it's
that
hard
flavor
to
with a
associate.
cigar.
Like when we talk about flavors that you pick up in cigars, it's hard to associate sometimes some of those flavors because you're just not thinking of them.
Right. Who gets nutmeg when you're smoking tobacco?
Right.
But,
yeah. So you're just not thinking of them. So being able to actually bring those up at the right time, right place, without going, it's there, I know it, but I'm not sure what it is.
Right.
It takes a long time, and sometimes just someone has to nudge you a little bit, like
that. And so I wanted to share that because I thought if you're trying to develop your palate, because mine certainly is not as developed as I'd like for it to be, that's one of the best things you can do. Smoke the cigar. And then if you can't figure out what you're getting, then go read a review of someone.
Right.
Half Wheel's a great example. There are other places, too.
Well, if you're really newbie at this,
Cigar Craig does great
smoke a
review.
cigar and read the interview at the same time and try to identify.
Try to find it, yeah, absolutely.
That'll really help your palate.
So the only real flaw that I can mention with this cigar was that uneven burn, and you can see it a little bit on the pictures. It did make the final third burn a bit hotter, and that muted those flavors a little bit, which I wasn't pleased with. However, I do have to say, I never tended this cigar. And by the time I got down to the end, it had evened out, and that hotness that was causing it to be a little bit harsh had pretty much dissipated. So it wasn't perfect, but the flavors were terrific, but the burn did mess with the enjoyment of the cigar a little. So at about $11, which for me, I think it's a little bit pricey for a Maduro.
That's premium.
My expectations are high at that price range, right? Because I can get some pretty good Toros for $8 to $9, and so at $11 for a Maduro, I'm sorry, for a Robusto. I would probably still give it a solid 5 if it weren't for the burn issue that nicks it a little. But I would say I will totally go get another one. Because I'm betting it might have been just isolated to the one cigar.
It's Rocky Patel.
Yeah, I mean, his quality is
and
pretty
his quality
strong.
Control has been pretty outstanding.
It really has. So
and dealing with a handmade organic product, there's bound to be from time to time issues.
And it didn't keep me from enjoying this cigar. I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I'm still going to give it a 4.5 based on what I smoked. But if it hadn't had the burn issues, I would give it a solid 5. And I can put up with a crooked burn. That doesn't bother me too bad if I don't have to constantly tend it. But it did make it smoke a little harsher for a portion of the cigar than I wanted it to.
When we come into cigar tasting,
it could have just been the one.
There's a phrase in the industry where a lot of people will smoke the label or smoke with their eyes, but you're actually doing that literally.
I was literally smoking the label there for a moment. Yeah. But that was my fault. I should have paid attention to what was going on. I wasn't holding the cigar where I could see it.
We've all done that.
Yeah? I was like,
especially when you have a label.
I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, it's not on the band, and then I turn it over. Oh, it is on the band. So
we've all done that, especially on cigars that have like an extra large label or maybe a couple of labels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this was one. Rocky doesn't use that second label. Excuse me, a lot on his cigars.
Right.
The 1990 and the 1992 have it, but most of his cigars are more like a single label, like the Decade. But this one had that extra little band that said 25th anniversary.
Right.
And so anyway, I like it. I like Rocky cigars in general, and that can affect it too. I was thinking about that because if you hand me a new cigar by AJ Fernandez or Rocky Patel,
you're instantly prepared.
Right. I've set the bar higher for what I'm expecting based on how much I've enjoyed from those particular cigar makers before. So maybe that's a little unfair too, Yeah. I might even rate this higher if it was a brand I was not as familiar with, But if you hand me a My Father cigar, immediately I've got expectations that it's going to be pretty good. Exactly. So anyway, that was my thoughts for that. Ian, I'm ready to start some drinking. Let's take a break.
I'm for it.
I know you're for it. Yeah. Let's take a break. We'll come right back with something from the Manhattan Project Beer Company called Necessary Evil Pilsner. See, it's Halloween. You see how I'm tying in? You see what I'm doing there? Yeah. I work hard on this stuff. Either that or I have a tendency to drink when I'm putting the show together the night before. So one of the two. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting.
Great.
welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I'm sorry, I just looked up and Ian was gently stroking the bottle of single malt there. Bunnahabhain. Thank you. See, I'm hoping you'll keep saying it a few times and I can just copy what you say.
I'm waiting for Glenfiddich Dave to call us up and be like, that is so wrong.
Oh yeah, and then he could pronounce it, and it would be just amazing to hear him say that.
I love that guy.
Speaking of whiskey, by the way, there's a company called Bespoken Spirits. See, bespoken, isn't that kind of Halloweenish too?
Bespoken, I think.
Bespoken,
means,
yeah.
Crafted for a specific thing.
I think that's what it means. It just sounded like a Halloweenish word to me. Anyway, Bespoken Spirits says it can use science to produce better whiskeys. President Trump immediately denounced them, saying "science schmience." But
science me up on this.
Yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead, what do you got?
So here's what they say: it has spent several $1 million to prove that it can actually create whiskey that is made just now that can stand up to whiskey that has been aged. And so they're based out of Menlo Park, California. They're a startup, and they use a proprietary technology to rapidly produce custom whiskey. They just received a little over $2.5 million in seed funding from a mogul from the semiconductor world and Derek Jeter, the baseball player. Or the former baseball player, I guess. Anyway, the announcement comes as COVID continues to upend the alcohol industry, with bars and restaurants closed or operating at limited capacity. There's a new era of opportunity, Bespoken Spirits says, to the industry, especially as it's been hit hard by COVID-19. Now, most whiskeys mature in oak barrels for at least 5 years, some for 30 or more. Bespoken Spirits says they use this technology that extracts the key elements from the barrel that enhance the aroma and color and taste in a matter of days as opposed to over time. So what they're saying is they've found a way to extract. You're looking at me like, no way, Jose.
No, in my mind, what they're doing is they take each stave of the barrel and squeeze it out like a lime.
Kind of like that is what you could picture, yeah. But they've come up with what they say is a scientific process that allows them to extract the parts of it on a molecular level that influence the taste, and then make sure that comes in contact.
Definitely science stuff
with,
since you
with
use
the
the
liquid.
word molecular.
Yeah. They say that their ability to deliver both quality and variety is what caught the attention of the investors, and aficionados seem to agree. Bespoken won 8 awards in the 2020 San Francisco World Spirits Competition.
Wow.
8 awards in their judging of craft spirits. But they say that they know that despite the awards, it's going to be a tall order to actually win over whiskey purists. They say they can't fault people for wanting to bring something, or others have said they can't fault these guys for wanting to bring something new to the forefront of the drinking world. But one reviewer said he holds umbrage with the shortcut takers of the world, who view the creative process as nothing more than an easy way to make a buck. So they're going to be up against that kind of thinking, no matter how good the whiskey is. So
there's in any industry that's based on tradition.
Mm-hmm. And is there? Can you think of one that's based on tradition more solidly than the whiskey industry?
Yeah, I mean that's a big one right there. So and there's the story behind the whiskey. Sells the whiskey a lot of times. I mean, there's not just or the spirit in general. It could be gin or it could be whiskey. Or it
Sure,
could be,
of course, tequila. It could
tequila.
be.
Yeah, there's a story behind it that always helps sell it, and it makes it interesting and fun.
You don't want to think of it as coming from a lab.
Right, so this is a little bit of a test tube baby whiskey.
Yeah,
I think.
it really is.
And that doesn't mean that it's probably it could be good. I don't know. It could be delicious.
Well, if we can get our hands on this, I think what we should do is some kind of we should get our whiskey expert, Chris Hart, who hosts the Whiskey Neat show and is with the Houston Bourbon Society. Get him to come on the show, and we'll just pick 5 whiskeys, but have it be one of them. And see if A, we can tell which one it is in a blind test, and B, how we rank it in just a random 5 whiskeys. I mean, you can bring a couple of whiskeys from your bar. I'll bring a couple from mine, and then we'll get a bottle of this bespoke if we can find it. I haven't seen it.
I haven't
That
seen it
doesn't mean I
either.
can't
wonder if
find
it's
it. So
difficult to get a hold of.
I don't
And
know.
I wonder what the label looks like because everything from California causes cancer. And have you noticed everything?
Well, I think
has been known in the state of California to
people
cause
who
cancer.
live in California seem to think that because there are laws and stuff passed. I'm going to just pass this over to you from the article, and you can maybe show that to the camera.
I can't see what I'm showing to the camera, but I will put that up here.
Yep.
We got it this way? No, this way. Ooh, I've kind of goofed it up there. There we go.
I think it kind of moves around. Yeah, there you go. So you can get a feel for what that looks like in case you're looking for some of it. So there you go.
I mean, they're using a nice glass.
And the bottle looks legit enough, right?
The bottle looks okay. They're using those little 350 ml bottles.
Yeah, yeah.
The label to me is very plain looking.
Yeah.
Not
Maybe
even
that's-
very interesting.
Maybe that's by design. Maybe they didn't want to make it too fancy, and I don't know. Just the fact that people are going to be drinking this and looking at it differently.
The way the bottle looks just makes me think that the spokesperson for them would say, "Bespoken whiskey."
Bespoken.
It's bespoken.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very subdued.
It's very interesting.
It's an interesting idea. I would love to try it and see how it fares against
I'll do our best to
tried and true. I'd love to do a blind taste test too.
Dude, that'd be fun. I think if we did it in a blind taste test like that, it would keep us from being prejudiced against it one way or the other, either positive or negative. And it just,
it definitely
just stand
brings
on
it
its
to a
own.
little more
So.
level playing field.
From Dallas, Texas. I believe this is the first time we've had one of their beers, the Manhattan Beer Project. They've got a number of different, styles and different kinds of craft beer available, as you would expect. This is their Necessary Evil Pilsner. And,
So
we've had a few good Pilsners on the show over the last couple of months.
It smells like a
It smells like a beer.
yeah, it smells like a beer with a little dankness on the background.
I'm picking up a little bit of
Hoppy dankness.
Yeah, I'm picking up. I was going to say a little bit of that malt and wheat kind of that brewery smell. You know what I'm talking about when you walk into a craft brewery and it's got that wonderful yeast and hops and barley smell in the air. I pick up a little of that on the nose. What are you getting when you taste it?
Delicious. This has a little more hoppiness than I was expecting, but you kind of can smell it on the nose. Mm-hmm. But it's also got a sweetness that follows that hoppiness that just cleans up any bitterness that you would have.
You're right. It's the sweetness is kind of on the finish there, isn't it?
Really, and it's just this underlying sweetness that just sweeps through and cleans up all the bitterness going on. Necessary Evil entertains the palate without fatiguing it. At first sip, you will detect a hint of floral character. I go with that, yeah.
Yep.
That immediately tells you this isn't your ordinary pills. It's dry and crisp with a bit of our signature style to make it memorable. Necessary Evil is refreshing in any situation.
I really like this because it puts this after the finish. You get this wonderful little tingle on the tongue. You're like, what flavor is that? You're trying to, and makes you want another drink. It finishes pretty dry.
It does finish dry, but that sweetness just cleans it up, and it doesn't linger a lot. There's that malty sweetness is key to this beer. This is good.
I guess it's a little maltier and a little hoppier than what you might normally expect from a Pilsner, but that is a big part of what makes it taste good.
But
That's
it's
what it gives
also
it the
not
flavor.
like we say as much malty and hoppy as it has. It also is very well in the realm of Pilsner. It's not
right.
a giant.
It's not like an
flavored
IPA
beer.
or
It's
right.
not like,
right.
It's not like trying to be a bigger beer than it is.
Does the can say what the alcohol percentage is?
It's 5.3%.
5.3.
On it. 12
So that's
fluid
about
ounces.
like an IPA, I guess. If it's not too, IPAs can be
Pilsner's
5, 6,
usually
7.
4.5 to 5.
Right.
This is a hair
A
more
hair
than
above
that, I think.
Yep.
It says it pairs well with tacos.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's like a little thought bubble or a word speech bubble. So I guess it goes well with conversation, maybe.
Yeah.
And then
I think so.
it has a little popsicle with a bite taken out, and it says pool.
Speaking of goes well with tacos, today's drinking news coming up in our 5th segment.
Goes well with tacos.
The headline for us today is license, registration, and taco, please.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't have a taco verse for drinking news, but I should probably come up with that.
Well, you got a few segments if you want to improvise. Well, this is quite good. I've drained mine already.
I
so
totally want more.
Yeah, this is
of this.
this is quite good. Necessary Evil. They are out of Dallas, Texas, and
Did you get this by any chance at Specs?
I did get it at Specs.
Okay,
yes.
because I'm going to buy this next time
This
I go
is
by.
brewed by Manhattan Project Beer Company out of Dallas.
This is light and delicious with a kiss of sweetness.
Pairs well with tacos, yes, food. I like that. I realize you read that already, but I like the way that's kind of written
Here,
on the can.
I'll
That's
show
very
that-
cool.
I'll show that to the camera.
That's very cool.
It pairs well with.
Yep, very cool. It's also a very understated can, and I saw several of their other beers, and the cans are a similar design.
What do we call that?
Same
This
kind
is
of
a
color.
compass points. What do we call this design?
4 points of the compass. I don't know. Is there a word for it?
There's a name for
Wiki
it. I can't
Bryan
think of
is
it off
with
the
us
top of my head.
today. Maybe he'll be able to tell us what that north, south, east, west insignia is all about. So,
Yes.
all right. I tell you what, Ian. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back with a second beer. This one, for this one, we go to California and Moonraker Brewing Company. We'll be trying their Space Nectar IPA plus the Rob Report. You remember
I remember the
we've
Rob
talked
Report,
about the
yeah.
Rob Report before. I told you I used to subscribe to. I subscribed to it like for about a year because I thought it made me feel like I was wealthy, and all I did was like look at pictures of people's private jets and stuff and go, I'll never be able. Yeah, it was
Things I can't afford.
I thought it was going to be like inspiring. You know what I mean? Like it would help me become ambitious.
But it browbeat you a little bit.
Instead, it depressed me. Yes. So I don't subscribe anymore. But their lists are always interesting because when it comes to the Rob Report, it's one of those, well, money is no object. Because in fact, I think they kind of throw really expensive stuff in on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Just because that's the vibe of the magazine.
They're like, you think you're extravagant.
But they have released the list of the 9 best tequilas, and even the sophisticated Rob Report says in their headline, the 9 best tequilas to try. Right now!
Right now!
So everybody's getting in on the right now action. So we'll take a look at that when we come back. Drinking news is on the way. More beer and a really interesting single malt from Scotland called
Bunnahabhain?
Thank you. Oh, thank you for doing that. Thanks for being
I'm going to laugh when they come up and it's like, that's not pronounced like that at all.
Bunnahabhain or something. It's been so great. Like in doing the show, we've gotten to talk with some of the distillers from some of these great whiskey companies in Scotland, and it's so great hearing them pronounce even just their own brand name because they say Glenmorangie in a way that neither you or I could ever say.
Glenmorangie,
And it sounds so much better when they say it. But anyway, okay, we'll be right back with some more of that whiskey that Ian was talking about coming up on Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com because cigars.
Because cigars.
MyCigarShirts.com has got great designs. They start under $20. They're very reasonable. Please go check them out. They are a sponsor of this show, so you supporting them not only gets you cool shirts and sweatshirts and other gear, but it also helps support Smoking and Toasting.
and you'll be wearing stuff that I say.
That's right, because stuff Ian says seems to become shirts there, which is pretty cool. I wanted to mention that Wiki Bryan chimed in about the north, south, east, west thing. He says, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's called a compass." So thank you. He also mentioned, by the way, that the Rocky Patel website has a video, a very intense video. He says for the quarter century. He actually says, Wiki Bryan says, perhaps a little too intense. So I'll have to go watch that and see what that's all about. But
It's intense
anyway.
in here.
Yeah,
A little
it
too
is
intense.
a little too intense. Bruce Willis in Bunnahabhain.
Bunnahabhain.
Bunnahabhain. See, I can't even get it right
It's
after
an
all this
extra
time.
syllable in Bunnahabhain.
Bunnahabhain.
Okay. So hold on a second. So while you were
While I was
I
away?
looked it up because I asked the Google how to pronounce Bunnahabhain, and it comes up with a English guy, or not English guy, but
Probably a Scottish guy.
a Scottish guy sitting in a big chair,
And what does he say?
and he's got a look on his face here. Let's see here.
This is a high-tech show, so we actually show you the phone and iPad
Yeah, look at the look
screens.
on his face here.
Oh, yeah. It just went dark.
Yeah, I
But
accidentally pressed the
he's
button as I put it.
he's pretty serious, I think, that guy.
Yeah, he looks very serious about it. So we're gonna listen to what he says here.
Okay. Bunnahabhain. Okay. I feel better now.
So I wasn't
Not
too
that I
far
had
off.
it right, but I feel better now. Just knowing I feel better.
There's also our producer pointed out there's another word on here that's spelled Stiuireadair.
And how do you say that?
Would you like to try it?
Oh, not at all.
Stewardur. Sorry.
Stewarder. Yeah, I love hearing people with a really good Scottish
The
accent speak.
stewarder. It's Gaelic meaning helmsman.
I remember back in my alternative rock and roll radio days when the band Garbage came out. And Butch Vig, the mega producer, is the drummer for Garbage, but the lead singer was Shirley Manson, who was Scottish. And I remember they came in to do an interview, and it was mesmerizing to hear her talk. And all of the guys in the station that day were just following her around like little puppy dogs just to hear her speak. It's just one of those things. Women with Scottish accents are wonderful. I suppose I don't know. Do women like men with Scottish accents? Is that
I don't know.
I know they like British accents. I think they think are cool.
Well,
Scottish is a little
some
different.
general rules on pronouncing words. If it's a French word, you pronounce like the first syllable and a half, and then ignore
and then
every
just
other
ignore
letter.
everything else. Yeah.
In Gaelic, apparently, you look at the long string of letters and ignore all of them and pronounce it generally differently than any of those.
In a completely different way. Yes, absolutely. Now, I'm better at pronouncing things, and I think it comes from the fact that I grew up in Texas, and there's so much rich Hispanic and Mexican culture here. I'm a little better
get a
at
feel for it,
pronouncing the Spanish word. So when it comes to tequila, I can share with you reasonably well these tequilas that are recommended by the Rob Report. 9 tequilas that you should drink right now.
Right now.
And when the Rob Report starts saying "right now" in capital letters, you know this is caught on. This is a trend.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. The first one that they give us is Riazul Extra Añejo. Now, here's one of the things I will tell you in advance I really appreciate about this list with the Rob Report. Almost every one of these tequilas is an Añejo or an Extra Añejo. And sometimes when we get these lists and they're listing the Blanco, or, I'm like, well, why didn't they? I mean, is the Blanco really better than the Añejo in this tequila line? Because most tequilas that I've tried, and I've tried a lot, I may enjoy the Blanco for what it is. I may enjoy the Reposado for what it is. But if I'm going to have a little bit to sip, it's almost always going to be the Añejo or the Extra Añejo if I can afford it.
The deal is, provided you have the same companies, Silver, Reposado, and Añejo, or Extra Añejo, it all starts from that silver or white or
Right, it
whatever
starts
they
with
want
the
to
same
call it. It
distillate,
starts with the
right.
same distillate. And so is it going to be true that the unaged one is going to be better than the aged versions with added flavor and added complexity?
It might be a really good unaged
I'm going to
version,
say
but-
most of the time probably not. Now, there's always exceptions to rules, but I'm going to go ahead and put that up there in the like 80 to 90% that.
Well, we had the Sammy Hagar has that new tequila out that we
Yes.
tried, and that was a Blanco.
Uh-huh.
And I don't even think he's got older iterations of it out yet. I thought for a Blanco, it was really good. Like, it was very smooth, had interesting flavors. But I don't think it's going to be better than the Añejo when he eventually releases that.
Most people don't sit around and sip the Blancos, though.
Right.
In general,
That's a good
generally
point.
speaking, if you're going to sit around and drink tequila, you're going to probably sit around and drink more of the Reposado or the Añejo.
Yes, I think you're right.
Speaking of drinking,
why don't you get that started, and I'll share with you these tequilas.
Here's drinking sounds.
Okay, go for it. Ooh, that one came out really well. So the Riazul Extra Añejo, they say you can practically feel the elegance emanating from the bottle. It is a tequila that spends its first 3 years maturing in American ex-bourbon barrels before receiving a robust final year in Oloroso sherry casks. The result, they say, is a thick blanket of marzipan, molasses, and honey linked with a thread of sweetness from the estate-grown Highland agaves that have been harvested to make this tequila. Every bottle hand-numbered and presented in a wooden gift box. It's $148, which I will say is right around the price point of the Reserva de la Familia, which is my absolute favorite tequila of all time. So it's got some tall competition at that price point.
I don't think I've ever met anybody that's tried Reserva de la Familia and said, that's not worth it.
Right, exactly. Even though it's expensive. I mean, I don't buy a lot of anything that's at that price point, but that's one that I will. In fact, I don't have any now, and it makes me a little sad. So I may have to rectify that soon. Next on the list, the Casa Dragones Barrel Blend Añejo. Fans of their crystal clear tequilas, they say, which include connoisseurs and mixologists and celebrity chefs, now have a new reason to rejoice. The Casa Dragones company has skipped over the Reposado category entirely, and they have released this as their barrel blend Añejo tequila. It is also $150 a bottle, retail price, after being separately aged for more than a year in each of the two types of barrels. There are French oak barrels from 5 different forests and American oak barrels from Missouri and Pennsylvania. After more than a year in each of those two types of barrels, they're blended together in small batches, and it's, they say, deep, woodsy, silky, herbaceous, and a tequila worthy of the finest snifter. So that one gets their big thumbs up. Are you playing with the sign?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. 1800 Cristalino Añejo. Another new entry, they say, in what's becoming the fastest growing category within the tequila industry, which is the Cristalino, the filtered clear tequilas. It starts out with the 1800 Añejo, which is aged for 16 months in both American and French oak barrels. Before being blended, it's a $65 tequila, so it makes the list at less than $100.
$65 is still pretty pricey tequila-wise.
Well, it is. Now, the next one is El Tequiliano Reposado Rare. So here's a Reposado that's selling for $225 a bottle.
What?
Mm-hmm.
A Reposado is aged for, what, 3 months?
They say this under-the-radar tequila has been around for more than 60 years, but this newest expression, they say, may bring it into the spotlight as one of the most unique tequilas in its category. They say, think of it as an extra-aged Reposado, but with much more depth. They say the tequila is aged for up to 6 years, so quite frankly, they could call it añejo. It would be plenty enough aging for it to be añejo.
Why do they call it Reposado?
I don't know. That, in fact, up to 6 years would actually classify it as an extra añejo. Yeah. But anyway, they say the Mexican law states that extra añejo can only be aged in barrels of 600 liters or less. These were aged in huge American oak barrels called a pipon, which can hold well over 20,000 liters. So that's why they can't classify it as an añejo or an extra añejo. But it's got the same amount of aging. It's just that the barrels are larger.
So they have to call it a Reposado.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they call it Reposado Rare, and they say it's got notes of honey and vanilla in the bouquet, and it's absolutely delicious, and it's $225 per bottle. And then they list a Jose Cuervo, but it's not the one that I love so much.
It's not a friend of yours?
No, it's not. It's a $33 bottle of Jose Cuervo Tradicional Añejo. And I don't know if I've had this. Now,
I don't think I have either.
They say you might not want to think of mixing Irish whiskey with your glass of añejo, but that's what Jose Cuervo's master distiller, Alex Coronado, was intrigued by the similarities in textures between his double-distilled tequilas and certain triple-distilled Irish whiskeys. So he started experimenting with a number of different Bushmills whiskey casks before selecting second and third filled cask to add complex spice notes and mellow smoothness to Jose Cuervo's Añejo, and was then finished up for 4 months in Bushmill's single malt
What's it
whiskey
called?
barreled. It is called Jose Cuervo Tradicional Añejo. And I'm going to tell you, I don't see.
That
I'm
sounds
looking
so
at the
interesting.
bottle.
I feel like we have to try that.
This is going to be a. I'll enlarge. Well, it's hard to do here. Maybe I can just show. Maybe you can just show that picture to the camera without. That's what it looks like, and I'm not used to seeing that on my shelves. I see the regular tequila from Jose Cuervo.
Right.
I see the 1800.
The bottle looks totally different.
And and this is a very different bottle. So now, if you remember when we had Liliana on, she brought a Cuervo. Was an old Cuervo Tradicional, was a Blanco. Remember?
Right.
That bottle looked more like this one.
Yeah.
So anyway, very interesting. So those are the tequilas that. Oh, I forgot to include the two of them. The Corazon Añejo, aged in William LaRue Weller barrels. No price listed on this one. And then there is the Penta Añejo. The Penta Añejo, they say it's made from Blue Weber. It is $150, and they describe it as rich and creamy with multiple layers of vanilla, molasses, roasted brown sugar, cinnamon, and nutmeg. That's a lot of flavors.
That's a lot of things going on here.
So there's your list of tequilas from the Rob Report for right now, and I want to point out that it has not escaped my notice that my friend Ian here, who is not the most IPA friendly of the people on this show,
I'm a little critical of the IPAs.
You are, and that's fine. But you've just gone back for seconds on this Moonraker IPA, which we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. But this is from Moonraker Brewing in Auburn, California. It's their Space Nectar IPA. Talk to me, Goose.
When I was very first introduced to IPAs,
yeah.
I think the first introduction I can remember was at a brewery in Galveston that's no longer there. And my band used to play there, and the brewmaster up there, every time we came in, would always come and be like, "Hey, look what I'm brewing now," because we got along pretty well because I love beer.
Love having friends like that.
And he brewed an IPA before this was way before IPA became the thing.
The thing, right?
You
Yeah.
know? And he would pour a glass of it, and set it in front of you, and you could smell the floral deliciousness right there from it. This smells like that. This has a malt backbone to it that stands up to all the hops the entire way through the palate. And it's also not a very heavy drink. It's very light and drinkable.
It actually
the entire
looks
way.
like it's going to be much heavier and more viscous
It
than
also
it is.
looks like it's going to be a juicy IPA. And it doesn't come across.
Now, see, I'm
Pardon me.
I'm pulling plenty of citrus, so I would put it.
There is citrus,
I would put
but
it
I
in the
wouldn't call
juicy
it
category
because it doesn't taste like orange juice.
See, I'm getting mixed citrus all over the place, though.
The malty profile in this it really ties the whole thing together. It ties the IPA
it's
together.
almost like the marriage of an East and West Coast IPA
and it
into
has
one beer.
plenty of hops to make you think, oh wow, this is definitely big IPA. But then it has that sweetness from the malt coming right after that and finishing it up. This
Well, I think it's delicious.
is an outstandingly balanced IPA right here. This is one of the better ones we've even had on the show, I think.
Wow, that's high praise. I would definitely put this in my buy again, buy often category. Moonraker, again, out of Auburn, California.
They keep it cold and drink this today.
Does it say if this is a limited on the can? If it's a limited release
Doesn't say
or
anything. There's almost no information on the can. Although the graphic's pretty cool. It's kind of like Saturn dripping.
and it's got they use that very spacey font
Yeah.
for Space Nectar, and of course Moonraker. That was the title of a James Bond movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So good stuff. That's delicious.
This is fantastic. This is a great IPA.
I get all excited whenever you like an IPA, and I know that makes it sound like I'm saying you don't like IPAs,
No, and
which
this-
I know is not
and
the
you
case.
said this has
but
citrus.
you're just pickier.
See, to me, this is not orange. Like all juicy IPAs, they taste a lot like orange juice. I'm not saying that in a disparaging way, even though I say it with a disparaging voice. No, they all taste a bit like orange juice. This is a little more grapefruit, on it, on the finish, and then a sweetness there that really doesn't have anything to do with grapefruit or orange juice. There's a sweetness that's definite malt, but then again, it's not in a weird way. It's right there. It follows the entire palate. And is a nice roundness to this.
It definitely has a roundness to it. Adam on the Wheels of Steel is our producer, and he has a very balanced palate. Adam, what was your take on this? Did you like this? Yeah. I mean, delicious. Okay. The man a few words with this, but he says
I'm for it.
He's for it. He's learning from you. Beer good.
Beer good.
All right. Well, I think it's delicious. In fact, thank you for pouring me more because I'm going to enjoy this while we take our break.
It's absolutely outstanding.
And when we return, we will taste the
Bunnahabhain.
Thank you. Yes, that whiskey that I brought in today that Ian does a great job of pronouncing.
Bunnahabhain.
It is a single malt, and we will be getting to it next on the program. Plus, drinking news is still on the way, and cocktails to make for Halloween coming up next. All right, ready? Let's do it. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Ian playing along on the ukulele. You don't think of the ukulele as I'll play along. I'll bring my ukulele. Like that doesn't have the same it doesn't have the same impact. But thank you. That sounds good. You're listening to Smoking and Toasting. This is the radio program and podcast that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. My name is Cruz. My erstwhile partner is Ian Barry. Adam is on the Wheels of Steel, and we are bringing you a show that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Show number 209 today, and we are brought to you by the fine folks at mycigarshirts.com because...
Cigars.
Yes, and you should check them out because the shirts start under $20, and they're really cool.
I think My Cigar Shirts needs a theme song.
Oh. Do you have one for me?
No.
Do you want to make up one on the spot?
Shirts, my cigar shirts. I want to have my cigar shirts.
I like it. I like it very much. I particularly like the grin you had on your face at the end there. That was just absolutely perfect. So, all right. So I'm going to share some cocktails with you for Halloween. Now, this year's Halloween is so weird, right? Because of coronavirus. Because usually Halloween is, you get the kids all dressed up in costumes. You go door to door. I'm sure there'll be some of that, but it's going to be a lot of it. I'm sure not happening.
Right.
For the door to door candy thing, and then I spent a number of years working in, bars and clubs, and Halloween night and the weekend of Halloween were always some of our biggest nights of the year. Everybody loves to come out and party. It's a big drinking holiday.
A great party.
And of course, people have Halloween parties at their house, and people go over in costume, and so much of that won't be happening this year. But you can still get into the holiday Halloween vibe by making some cocktails on your own. I want to describe a few of them that I found on a great article at liquor.com, which, by the way, if you don't have that bookmarked,
all right,
that should be one of your bookmarks.
Liquor.com is one of those websites that you should always have bookmarked because it's entertaining. It's a great place to be. I
will have Adam include this URL in the show notes when the show posts for the podcast. But if you are just listening, you don't feel like going and finding it, just go to liquor.com and search Halloween cocktails, and this article will come up. And I'm telling you, it's very cool. The first cocktail is called Let's Pumpkin, which, by the way, is a saying in Oklahoma, but I digress. Homemade fall spice syrup is about to become your new favorite cocktail component. It's a lightly sweet blend of cardamom, star anise, nutmeg, ginger, cinnamon, cloves, and orange, which adds rich fall flair to any recipe, but works particularly well in this. So it's homemade fall spice syrup. You can get the recipe on this.
Fall spice syrup.
Yeah, and so they say you add this with bourbon, ginger liqueur, pumpkin puree, and then apple, lemon, and pineapple juices. This is sounding delicious.
It already
And then you
sounds great.
serve it all in a hollowed-out pumpkin, topped with toasted marshmallow for a stunning presentation. And there's a great picture here. I won't try to share all these pictures.
Do you?
But that is totally worth your while to try to make that.
Do you carve pumpkins?
I have in the past. I have not for the past couple of years. Do you?
Occasionally.
Yeah?
And I love getting all the pumpkin seeds out. And my wife will clean them up, and then we'll roast them in the oven.
Oh, that's great. I love roasted
It's
pumpkin
so
seeds.
good. Like that's just one of those treats, and you can't get it. Like you can have pumpkin seeds any time of the year, buying them in little packages. It's
Yeah.
not even close to the same.
I like those, but it's not the same as when you roast them yourself. So, the next cocktail on the list is one that was originally created as a hangover cure, but it's called the Corpse Reviver, number 2, and it's great for creating one too. They say it's a shaken mix of gin, orange liqueur, Lillet Blanc, and fresh lemon juice, and it's delicious enough, they say, to raise the dead. But when it's strained into an absinthe rinsed glass, they say that's when it gets really spooky.
Oh, an absinthe rinsed glass.
It looks like, in the photo, it looks like the color and the consistency of a margarita, but without the ice. So I'm thinking that looks interesting. I may try to make that this Halloween.
Did you notice how good it smells in here all of a sudden?
Is that because of the
Bunnahabhain?
the fact that you've poured the Bunnahabhain? How'd I do? Bunnahabhain?
Yes.
I was almost close there. Let me share just another one of these with you real quick before we taste the Bunnahabhain. The Jack-o'-lantern punch. It can be made as a single serving or a big batch. Whole cloves and ground nutmeg bring the autumn spice to rum and lemon and apple juice, with a dash of sugar adding sweetness and club soda keeping it fizzy. They say garnish it with apple slices and cinnamon sticks and pumpkin seeds, and you've got the perfect Halloween spirit. And again, the recipes for all this are on this article at liquor.com. That's a harder thing to do in a podcast to share recipes. But go and get, I mean, this looks delicious.
That sounds
All
awesome.
of these look delicious. And if you're looking to, this would be a good year to try it out, because you're probably at home on your own this year. Try it out, and if it works, you can serve it at
I'm gonna have
next
to
year's
send-
Halloween party.
My wife loves to try different recipes for drinks.
Yeah?
She just loves, and she's creative about it too. So sometimes she's like, "This recipe makes some sense, but let me put this in it." And she, I'm gonna have to forward this to her because
Okay, she'll love this. Coming up, I'll tell you about the Gravedigger, the Devil's Margarita, and the Snickertini.
The Snickertini.
Yes, but first let's taste a little Bunnahabhain.
I'm just enjoying. Like this smells so good.
It is. It's an interesting. Okay, so Ian, what is that? What is that smell that you can detect on the nose here that you do not get from, let's say, a bourbon?
So first off, the vanilla is having a huge influence on everything.
That's what it
In
is. I
this,
think
like,
the vanilla is like really, really resplendent.
Because you're getting a lot of fruitiness.
Yes,
but then
fruity and
the
vanilla.
added to the fruitiness, and then you're getting some of the spice and,
and
vanilla added.
almost
to the
a
spice.
little butteriness too on the
Yeah,
nose.
there's definitely a little bit of that. But what's interesting too is you get a little bit of almost a smoky kind of nose to it as well.
This made one of those right now lists that we had previously on the show. I don't remember which one now.
Oh, the retrohale on this.
We go through a lot of those. Oh, you're liking the
is
retro.
absolutely to die for. The sherry cask,
Ooh,
I think,
definite sherry cask.
the sherry cask influence on this is huge.
So you're absolutely right, Ian. The finish and the retrohale are where this shines.
Like, it smells so good. It's even hard to describe. It's so complex. It's like there's a warm smell in there, like the oak astringency that's going on in there. You kind of smell a little bit of that oak. The vanillins are so huge in this.
It's got
The sherry cask darkness to the fruity flavor.
it's definitely a
influence.
darker fruit flavor. Dates and raisins and wow, pretty good.
There's There's a nuttiness. There's a like a hazelnut kind of thing going on in this. There's the oak influence on the finish is amazing. The hug, the warmth that you get
the
from
whiskey hug is like a
whiskey hug
full-on
is like,
embrace.
This is exactly what you want sitting in front of a fire in the middle of winter.
It
like,
has that
kinda
winter
whiskey
feel
hug.
to it, doesn't it? Yeah, it really does.
Well, it has those earthy kind of spices to it. Those kind of down home.
I can almost see the crackling fire, hear the crackling of the fire, and see the flames in front of me.
I want to smoke a pipe with this.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? And you could even go with some of that sweeter, more Cavendish type tobacco would blend well with this.
There's something in there. Let's see what the label says here.
Yeah, and it has a lot of really long words that look very Scottish to me.
A complex malt with a rich sherry influence and aromas of fruit, nuts, and spice. Well, I think we covered all that.
So you're for it.
Stewardour is a word that has a lot more letters than the syllables. Is a tribute to the sea and its influence on our distillery. Maybe that's it. There's a little
Almost like a sea salt
yeah,
vibe
I would
in
go
there.
with
Yes.
that just a little bit.
As you said that, I could kind of detect it in the
Our
in the
blender
whiskey
has
hug.
carefully selected casks with spirit of varying ages from our shoreside distillery warehouses to create this distinctive dram and its rich, characterful heart, typical of Bunnahabhain. Matured in sherry casks.
you can
It has
definitely
sense of dried fruit. We covered that. Caramel. Caramel,
you can
vanilla.
definitely tell the sherry cask
With a
influence.
nutty, creamy taste. We covered all that, and long, fruity finish. This is... it's hard. Like, everything that they say on there is true, and what we said, we kind of covered that. It's hard to nail down, like, to describe what this actually tastes like.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to describe,
It's
isn't it?
so incredibly interesting. If you're looking for a Scotch that has an incredibly interesting flavor and bouquet overall, this is unbelievably fun.
This is one of those times when I really appreciate your understanding of the flavor profiles in whiskey, because everything that you said just seems so spot on, but it would have been much harder for me to articulate. You really, I think, nailed it on this. This is one of the more interesting whiskeys we've had on the show in a long time.
It's interesting because now that when I read that and they talk about the seaside thing, I mentioned the oak earlier, but it's a salty oak kind of thing going on. It's really interesting because it has that oak astringency, but there's a little twang to it.
It really does call to mind an image of a distillery on a rocky shore, and you're watching the waves kind of splash up against the shore next to it. Not that would influence the flavor, but somehow
With the light snow coming down
well,
while
yes,
you're
exactly.
sitting in front of the fire.
Exactly. That's perfect. Well, I'm for it. I will say that. What's your overall take?
It's delicious.
You know, this is
I am
only
absolutely enjoying it.
only about a $30 bottle.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's not an expensive single malt.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right,
Well-
go out and buy this if
Yeah.
for nothing else. Because this is not your typical. This is spicier than most.
Right. And if you're looking for something to put on your whiskey shelf that's going to be completely different from the bourbons and the, more oaky type of things that you've got there, I mean, this is a great candidate for that.
It has just a hint of smoke to it. It doesn't have peat. There's
Right.
not a lot
I
of that
wondered
going on.
actually if it was peated at first, but it's not.
But it's incredibly interesting and complex. And you say it's 30-ish? Mm-hmm. Holy crap. Like,
Yeah.
that's incredibly complex.
And it's pronounced
Bunnahabhain.
Bunnahabhain. Doesn't that sound like some sort of secret Batman word?
You know what I should have been doing is every time you say how's it pronounced, I should say it the exact same way with like a weird hesitation for it. It's pronounced Bunnahabhain.
Yeah, I like that. That totally works for me. But doesn't it seem like maybe that's a Batman villain or something? Damn it, Robin. The Bunnahabhain is loose in the city.
Yeah, this and then on top of that, the whole
I just drained mine, so that tells you something there.
the whole complexity of spices. This would go amazing with almost any dessert. Mm-hmm. I think because of the profile of it, like any like pumpkin pie or pecan pie.
Oh yes.
Anything.
I'm looking at this Snickertini
whipped cream topping. Tell me about the Snickertini.
I will tell you about that. This is another of the drinks that is described in this Liquor.com Halloween cocktails article. The Snickertini, if you don't get any candy bars in your trick or treat, or you don't get to go trick or treating, mix up a batch of these instead. Caramel and chocolate sauce help create a beautiful presentation inside a glass that's filled with a sweet mix of caramel-flavored vodka, which that sounds awesome.
I have some at my house.
Bailey's Irish Cream. I have some at my house. Chocolate liqueur, amaretto, and a dash of heavy cream.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and it looks just absolutely delicious.
No idea where my wife got the idea, but about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had to go buy some salted caramel, or some caramel flavored vodka, and the stuff, the caramel stuff that you put on your ice cream.
Yes, like the pour on. Right.
And then she got some kosher salt, and she puts that stuff around the rim of the martini glass, and then salts the caramel, and then pours in this caramel flavored martini, and it's a salted caramel martini. It's ridiculously good.
Yeah, I will say I've had these in a number of places, but the best chocolate martini I've ever had was at a bar here in Houston called the Davenport. They make lots of different martinis.
The Davenport rocked.
The Davenport made a great.
Are they still around? I haven't been there in ages.
I haven't driven by in a while. It used to be kind of on my path, and it isn't since I moved downtown. But I think it may still be open.
My buddy Alex used to work there, man. I used to.
They make
go by
some
there
of the best
often.
martinis ever.
Yeah,
ever. And their chocolate martini, it's just like having a milkshake, except alcohol. I'm going to share one more of these drinks with you, and then we'll take a break. When we come back, drinking news and our final beer, which is I think going to be very, very interesting because it's a farm ale that's been aged in bourbon cask that is a pumpkin beer, a pumpkin farm ale. Yeah, see, perfect. We got the Halloween theme going on. But I do want to share one final drink with you from this list. There's a number of them. I didn't mention them all. Go check out the list at liquor.com. It's totally worth it. But I love this one, and it's simple. You can make this just from hearing me describe it. It's called Death in the Afternoon.
Oh.
And it's a simple 2-ingredient mix that is said to have been created by Ernest Hemingway. It is... it's got an eerie yet elegant green hue to it, green color, which makes it ideal for Halloween spooky sipping. It's a simple 2-ingredient mix, a combination of absinthe and champagne.
Ha!
Think about that. Like the sort of dark licoricey-ness of the absinthe
bubbles.
And the champagne bubbles and the sweetness. Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. So I believe they may even be equal parts. Go get the recipes to these and all the other drinks, because if you're throwing a Halloween party, these are great. Plus, just to be able to say that you're serving death in the afternoon.
Death in the afternoon.
That's pretty cool, don't you think? All right, we'll take a quick break. We will come back. We're going to be tasting one final beer today. As promised, it is the Rum Barrel Pumpkin from, I said bourbon barrels, but it's not. It's rum barrels. It's aged in rum barrels, and it is from the folks at Hardywood Park Craft Brewery in Richmond, Virginia. We'll be tasting that, plus get your ukuleles out, friends. It's time for Drinking News when we come back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back, my friends. It is Smoking and Toasting, the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. This is an open appeal. Support these guys because they support Smoking and Toasting.
Those are cool shirts,
and
by the way.
they do have really cool shirts. And they started under $20. It's not like one of those sites where you go and go, oh, this is really cool, and you click on the T-shirt and it's $56, because there's plenty of those out there.
Yeah, have you seen the Bill Murray golf shirts? They're incredibly expensive. They're cool though. They're some cool
but how much are they? They're like
$70.
Yeah. So I mean, you see a lot of that out there. These are not that way. They're very affordable and they're very cool. I've got one of them myself. They're very they're very cool. You've got one. It's comfortable.
I mean, $70 to cover up your nipples. I can just use tape.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't have to do that with mycigarshirts.com. You know why?
Because cigars.
Thank you. I was glad that you noticed. By the way, Bruce Stark checked in. Apparently, he took a look at the recipe for that drink we were describing, the Death in the Afternoon. He says it's 1.5 ounces of absinthe, 4.5 ounces of champagne. That makes sense to me because the absinthe is going to be a stronger flavor than the champagne, so that would be probably about the right amount of balance. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the point in the show that we inevitably reach. We can no longer hold back. It's time for Drinking News.
I came up with an intro. Actually, it's just me shredding on a...
You shredding on the ukulele.
Anyway.
Do they call it yucca shredding?
I don't know. All the ukulele shredders.
Yeah.
Anyway. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. So gather a cup while we gathered round. Saddle up while we drink 'em down. I got a story and I swear it's true. So now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Cheers, y'all.
A Florida man.
Oh, do we need a verse for that?
Yeah, go ahead.
A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When I asked about his absent arm, he said, I tried to take my gator to the vet. Drinking news, drinking
My favorite
news.
verse.
Now it's time for drinking news. Cheers, y'all.
I don't know why so many of these stories start with this phrase, but they do. They just seem to. A Florida man
I love that.
failed to realize that a taco is not a legal form of identification.
I don't understand what the problem with that is.
Matthew Faulkner found this out the hard way after he passed out drunk in the drive-thru. And by the way, let me just say, drinking news stories are not necessarily about drinking. Sometimes they're not about drinking at all. Sometimes they're just stories that are good to hear while you are drinking. But in this case, and in the case of a few of the other ones, yeah, there's some drinking involved. Matthew Faulkner found out the hard way after he passed out drunk in the drive-thru of a Jensen Beach, Florida Taco Bell, and his car caught fire. So think about this. A, you're drunk.
Oh,
B,
shit.
you're in a drive-thru at the Taco Bell. C, you pass out. And D, your car chooses that moment to catch fire.
That is a hell of an evening right there.
Well, that wasn't all that happened. The incident occurred in the early morning, imagine that, of October 1st in Jensen Beach, according to the blog Off the Beat, which I will now be adding to my favorites on my Internet Explorer.
We'll just put that right up on Newsfeed.
The 30-year-old Faulkner had apparently decided to make a run for a fourth meal after downing some beers, and somehow he made it all the way to the fast food joint in his Chevy pickup, placed his order, and received his taco before falling asleep.
Hey, man, sometimes you got to nap out a while.
The Taco Bell manager had to call police because he was out cold at the pickup window and was holding up the customers behind him. Yeah, I'd have been pissed. I'd be like, "Come on, dude, what'd you order?" You know?
Right.
You ever do that? You're in the pickup line at a fast food place and you're like, "What did these people order? How could it possibly be taking so long?"
And then 20 minutes later, they hand out like a tiny bag.
Yeah. Clearly, this
You're
is
like-
not a. Yeah. Clearly, this is not a victimless crime.
No.
Our hearts go out to the people who had to wait for their late night. I mean, it's 2 a.m. You're up for fourth meal at Taco Bell. You're pretty desperate to get those tacos or nachos or whatever it is that you ordered.
And if you wanted to wait that long, you would have gone to Whataburger, which would have been delicious in the end.
Yes, eventually.
But Whataburger is only very, very loosely fast food.
Yes, but it is delicious.
It's so good when you get it.
I'm gonna You have to go there on the way home now.
So good when you get
I'll have to put some extra time in my afternoon. A deputy, the story isn't over, by the way. A deputy sheriff awoke Faulkner in his car and then asked for his ID. Faulkner first said no, and then reached into his bag and presented the officer with a taco. Another deputy clarified that they were asking for an ID, not a taco. Faulkner chuckled and then began eating the taco. The deputies noticed he had fallen asleep with his foot on the accelerator while the truck was in park, and the engine caught fire. They had to use fire extinguishers to put it out. His blood alcohol content, according to a breath test, between 227 and 225.
Woo!
That's 3 times the legal limit. So he was hauled off to jail on DUI charges. No word on the fate of the taco.
Cheers, y'all.
That was a good one.
That was one. It started with a Florida man.
Yeah, almost any time you start with a Florida man, you know you're going to be able to pay off with something decent. I don't know why.
I'm going to come up with a new Florida man.
New Florida man verse,
I think, for next week.
I don't know. I love the current Florida man verse.
Well,
It's a good one.
it's such a rich environment.
And by the way, the photo
verses about.
that I asked Adam to put up of the taco during that story may or may not be the actual taco from the incident in question. Let's hope it wasn't.
ID this copper.
It's pretty good. That's pretty good. Raise your hand if you've ever been drunk enough that you might have put your taco out as an ID.
No, my hand betrays me. I tried to tell it not to.
Ian, let's have your hand grab that Hardywood Barrel Series Farmhouse Ale here. I'm very excited about this. More excited than I usually am for a farmhouse ale. We've had some really good ones. There's something about this that looks fun.
It has the whole like champagne cork.
It is from the Hardywood Craft Brewery. They are out of Richmond, Virginia. Yeah, and it's got the champagne cork top. I'm just waiting. I appreciate your patience at getting that open now. Interesting. That was more of a thunk.
Yeah,
than
well,
what I
the
expected.
deal is you could let it shoot off across the room.
Of course, but I appreciate that you didn't actually do that. So,
Being as we're in a sound studio.
yeah, probably that cork bouncing around might not be the greatest thing. So here we go. This is a rum barrel pumpkin farmhouse ale. It was aged, obviously, in rum barrels.
Pass that by your nose
And,
as you hand it on.
Oh, holy moly! So I get the funk of the farmhouse ale, and I get some definite
funk of 40,000 years.
and I get some definite pineapple as well. It's pumpkin. I don't know why I said pineapple.
It's pumpkin.
I don't know why I said pineapple. Maybe from the
You're thinking Hawaii,
cocktails.
not Halloween.
The cocktails we were
They both
describing
start with the
earlier.
letter H.
Yeah, perhaps. Wow, this is so good on the nose. It's got such a richness to it.
Oh, orange peel, pumpkin,
Yeah, some of that,
raisin.
Halloween holiday spice.
The funk, the great saison like farmhouse ale kind of funkness to it. It's
oh my God,
I haven't even tried it yet.
Ian.
What else is going on? There's a bright flavor in there that's smells amazing.
I'm just waiting for you to try this.
This is delicious.
Wow, it's really good. Now, there's some flavors in there I wasn't expecting based on the nose. I've only had a little sip.
This
so
is
you're
right
gonna have to,
on the.
Don't even say right on the nose.
No, this actually smells and tastes almost exactly the same.
Now, see, I'm pulling stuff out on the finish I didn't get on the nose.
You're 2 sips in. I'm only 1.
It's definitely a farmhouse ale.
Graham cracker.
A graham cracker and apple on the finish.
I go with apple. Oh. Yeah, but it's like a green tart apple.
Granny Smith. This is really, really interesting. First of all, the pumpkin is definitely there, but it's not one of those things that's like all pumpkin.
It's very prominent.
Yeah.
But it is not overpowering.
Agreed.
The carbonation is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's enough carbonation to tickle the tongue.
Yes.
And make the flavors dance a little bit, but not enough to be distracting. It's absolutely perfect.
I'll tell you one of the things, and I haven't brought a lot of them onto the show because I haven't been crazy about them, but I've tried a number of IPAs lately that I felt like were overcarbonated, and to me it killed them because
Carbonation can make or break.
You want
the way you're tasting
some,
the
don't
beer.
get me wrong, but sometimes there's a little too much. This, though, I agree with you. The carbonation is balanced. Perfectly.
I bought a beer last week because it looked interesting. It was called Little Snack or something like that. It was made with
Not a Montucky cold snack.
No, not that.
okay.
This was made with
I know what you're talking about.
beaver nuggets.
Yes,
from Buc-ee's.
From Buc-ee's. Okay.
And I got it home and it looked really interesting, but it was super overcarbed. Like when you pour it in a glass, you can't drink it for a while because it's so carb. Like it's just like you pour a third of the glass in and it's foamed up to the top.
Well, this is
so like as a mistake overcarb. Once you let it settle down, it's actually a pretty decent drink.
This is actually quite a fizzy beer on the tongue, but it doesn't disrupt you from getting the flavors. It helps you.
No, it's carved perfect for what you want it to be.
Agreed. Ian, take a look at the bottle and remind me of the ABV on this.
This is kind of a wimpy 12.3%.
Oh well,
it doesn't even come across as boozy. You notice
no,
our
it doesn't.
whole flavor
That's
thing
one of the
went back
reasons
and
I was
forth.
asking because I
And
remember
neither
it was
one of
high.
us said, "Wow, it's really boozy," because it doesn't come across. But it's got that farmhouse funk to it. That overripeness is because there's banana following. That's the banana.
Sure.
That's what I was trying to remember that I was tasting in there. That's that banana after taste going on. Overripe banana. Like this banana should have been used in banana bread like 2 days ago.
And that's when it's best, by the way.
Yeah, in the
overripe
best kind
banana
of way.
bread.
It's
man.
super good.
Well, I'm really impressed by this. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that it's the type of farmhouse ale that if you're a little standoffish about that genre, this is one to try.
This is extraordinary though in its depth though, because this isn't just a slap together, put some pumpkin spices. This is incredibly good.
Right. It's not like they came up with a pumpkin-y beer and added some autumn spices to it. This is really a
Also,
concoction of wonder.
This is I want to point something out. This is a farmhouse pumpkin ale aged in rum barrels.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's assume that it was in a rum barrel for minimum of 3 months. Okay. When did they start making this?
Right, like last.
They literally
last
are. This is a
October?
very forward-thinking company, right?
Yeah, no
here.
kidding. Well, it's kind of like whenever an artist releases an album at Christmas of holiday songs, and you realize they had to record this like back in May,
Yeah.
or July. It's like, kind of hard to get into the holiday spirit for most people in May or July.
So my biggest problem with this is that I drank it already.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to refill. Oh yeah,
I seem to have encountered a similar problem.
Yes.
And,
Let's fix that.
but no,
Look how silky and smooth it pours into the glass.
and
too.
look at the color.
It's got-
This is almost looks like a copper ale and not a.
But it's
not something that is 12.6%.
but it's got this great kind of silky smoothness to the overall mouthfeel of it too. It's a big mouthfeel.
This is a bottle to share for sure, because it's a nice big bomber. And this is probably going to be, we'll have a few more pumpkin ales between now and Thanksgiving, but this is probably going to be the fanciest of
Nub
the pumpkin
always
ales we try.
releases a harvest spice cigar, their harvest blend, which a lot of people quaintly refer to it as their pumpkin spice cigar.
Right.
And it's actually quite good if you've had one.
So how would something like that go with this?
This would be amazing
Yeah?
together. Like, I want that cigar right now. And it's a Nub Harvest.
I love the idea.
That's what it's called. They're absolutely delicious. But they have a little element of that baking spice. A lot of cigars have that baking spice thing going on anyway. But they have a higher element of that baking spice thing going on. And this tastes a lot like what you taste in that cigar.
Agreed.
minus the smoke and things like that. It's really, really nice.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this is a real winner. I mean, it's fantastic.
Man, today's a good show for beer, huh?
It has been a good show for beer, and you were pretty fond of the Bunnahabhain, too. Bunnahabhain.
Yes, Bunnahabhain. You said it right the first time.
Okay. I'll just try to stay with that. Well, great fun, Ian. We are inching our way towards the holidays here. We won't have a show on Thanksgiving week, but coming up in the very near future, we're going to do a look. Excuse me. I'm so sorry about that. We're going to do a look at the best beers, best breweries of 2020. The lists are starting to come out now, so we're going to compile all of those into one show that we can. And that'll be so we'll have a very beer-centric show next week as we take a look at those. Plus, we're going to be joined soon by the guys from Sigma Brewing, which we're looking forward to.
I'm glad we got that coming,
yeah.
man. Their porters are amazing.
Yeah, really, really amazing stuff. And then coming up, I'm trying to find the right...
While he's looking for that, I'd like to point out a little bit of COVID-19 advice. If you see people walking around with their masks below their noses, kindly remind them they wouldn't cover one eye and call themselves blindfolded.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that because that's rampant. I see it everywhere.
Yeah, like why bother wearing a mask if you might as well put it on your forehead.
Yeah,
for as much good as that's
it's not helping. I found the note I was looking for. Coming up on November 19th, we've been able to reschedule. We've tried to do this. We had him on virtually, but in one of the shows that we did when the pandemic first started, but we weren't able to have him in the studio and taste the wonderful goodness of his products. Christian Olave will be on the show on November 19th. He is with the Dalmore.
Is he going to also bring Cigar Malt?
And Jura. I don't know what he's bringing. But he's coming by. I think they may have something new. He'll be here to talk about it.
I might have to follow him out to his vehicle and mug him for some cigar malt.
Are you out of the cigar malt? Because you and I split a bottle, remember?
I have this much left.
That's so good.
I'm actually saving the tiniest little bit for my brother when he comes into town for Christmas. And as a matter of fact, I have a nice looking decanter.
Yes.
The problem is the glass. I think it's just old, and the glass stopper that fits in it just kind of rattles around in there. So I had to put a big, actually very similar to this, like out of a. Yeah. Except for mine says Brother Thelonious on it, which, by the way, is amazing and delicious. And I stuffed that in there to make sure it doesn't, angel share itself away.
Yeah. Well, all right, that's important. And I'm glad that you were able to take the necessary precautions.
I do what I can.
Thanks again to Docs and his lovely wife for having us on
they were amazing.
With them last week. And we're looking forward to really some great shows coming up in the next couple of weeks. Thank you to everybody who's been with us for, 209 episodes of
Halfway
this show.
to 300.
Yeah, it's pretty darn exciting.
So Bruce also asked if we have any Zoom meetings coming up to do a virtual cigar smoke. Maybe in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
maybe.
I would say in a couple of weeks.
That.
We were doing them every other week. Then we slowed down, but maybe we should do one, I don't know, once a month or so.
We have a lot of fun with it.
It always is a good time.
It is a good time.
It is a good time. So we just get together, get on Zoom, and everybody, and thanks to Bruce, who's actually got a Zoom account. See, we were cheap bastards using the free one, and we kept having to, everybody had to sign back on every 45 minutes.
No, Bruce has volunteered his account.
Volunteered his Zoom account.
We use that, and so you can stay on the entire time instead of having to reconnect.
I felt pretty cheap when everybody had to sign in, but everybody was really cool about it. They're like, okay, I'm back. All right. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here for a part of the show. We have so much fun doing it, and the fact that you listen or watch, quite frankly, still amazes us every week. So thanks so much. Have a great week, and I'm going to toast you with a little bit of this wonderful farm ale as we make our way out. Yeah, Hardywood Rum Barrel Pumpkin
So good.
is delicious. Have a great week, and cheers, y'all.